So would you have gone with maybe just one picture, or do you like the 3 pictures up top?
The 3 pictures up top, yeah, that's really good. The only problem I have with this thing is the very top.
Oh, you mean the debate diplomacy?
Yeah, a bit of glare. It just
Okay.
ripped off the PPP article.
Okay, so maybe bold the title a little bit more. Yeah, I would agree with everyone's comments. It's much easier to read. And this is kind of goes to the saying of less is more. Sometimes, when I judge, I've judged multiple categories. One year I judged exhibits, and we had to choose 2 projects at Nationals that were going to go on to the runoff round. We picked the simplest ones. They were not the flashiest. There were beautiful exhibits we saw. They were not the flashiest. We picked the 2 simplest ones because they were effective. They were good. It was good history. And so always keep that in mind, that it doesn't have to be flashy. It needs to be neat, readable, and look visually attractive. This is pretty simple though, and I think it's a very attractive website. And the other thing that I like is it incorporates different types of visuals. You've got a map, you've got pictures. And this is also a good example of, sometimes on projects, I'll see projects that have like 10 pictures on them, really tiny. But sometimes it might be better to have one big picture, one picture that's bigger rather than a whole bunch of small ones. So this is another page. The rules do not require that you need to have a thesis statement. I recommend it because I think it helps you in creating your project. What's a thesis statement? Anyone tell me? Yeah. It's kind of that unifying statement, isn't it? A thesis is a unifying statement that is telling people what your conclusion is. It's kind of, I always kind of think of it a little bit as sort of a hanger, and then you put your clothes on the hanger. And it's kind of, this is your unifying sentence, that you're saying what you believe. What is the main thrust of your argument? And remember that these are, in some ways, an argument, that you're making your case for your thesis. So I actually like seeing a thesis statement. I think it's helpful. And it also is helpful, too, because you know what? When you do your research, I'm sure you guys have already done this, you're finding tons of cool stuff. And I know, like me, when I would write a paper or something, I want to include everything. But you can't include everything. You've got to be really tough on that. So your thesis statement helps keep you kind of focused on that. Anything else what about the design of this? Would you change anything? No? Well, I might consider maybe, now they did bold the thesis, but maybe a different color. You see that they're quoting a primary source here. So maybe if it was differentiated in some way. But what I do like is they're quoting one here. They're not putting 10 different quotes. Again, really, less is more. And this, you can call it a conclusion. You can call it, impact statement. But one of the really important things you need to do with your project, and this is one of the things I think that is the hardest thing to do with projects, it's the so what question. Why is your topic important? How has it changed our lives? And how is it impacting us today? That's something I often don't see students do. They kind of just stop. You want to bring it forward, even if it's just a paragraph. With women in the military, in combat, what's the impact today? As you're looking at a specific aspect of World War II, what's the impact today? Can women go in combat? How has that helped change the way things work? You've got to address that. And that's why you'll hear me say it again, and Ms. Tom will want to throw things at me because she's like, oh, stop saying it. But it's really, you've got to be very concise and to the point, because you need to make sure to have time in your project to write, to do analysis. Why is your project important? What is its impact? And the other thing to keep in mind too is rights and responsibilities might differ depending on who you are. You know? So you want to look at things from multiple viewpoints. I really like this here. This is kind of cool. This young person got a letter from President Jimmy Carter. Isn't that kind of cool? And you know what I found, and this is why I say look at a variety of topics, of primary sources. People love being asked questions. People love it when you come to them and say, you're an expert, may I interview you? They love it, and they think you're good. Most people, 99.9% of the time, if you contact someone, they will answer you. Sometimes they won't, but here's a former president of the United States. That's really cool. And what I like about this is they showed two different things. They showed the letter from Carter, and they showed a picture from the event of creating the Panama. This is great. Two big things, not a lot of fussiness, but very clear. Okay. So we always look to our friends in Minnesota. And as Ms. Tom knows, we love our friends in Minnesota. They're such a great program. We always want to try to live up to that. So these are a couple of good ideas to stick with for any project. First of all, write all your text out. Before you start working on your website, write your text out, because then you'll know how many pages you'll need and how many subtitles under certain titles. So for any of your projects, do that first for exhibits, because that'll help you in design. Don't overdo it on the quotes, my friends. Like I've said to you, less is more. Sometimes fewer things will have a bigger impact. Clarity is more. Come on in. We're just getting started. We're working on websites. Come join us. There are plenty of seats here. Clarity is more important than flashiness. And I'll say this all day. The flashiest projects often don't win. They're beautiful, but you've got to have a good historical argument. And as you were saying, ma'am, use readable fonts and sizes. Remember your audience here. You're dealing with some people who might be older, who have eyesight issues. As the Morse website showed, hard to read. That background is really a poor choice. And include videos and audio only when applicable. That's another thing that people overdo. Oh, got to put it all up. Well, you know what? Does it make your point? Does it really help make the point? Or if it's just extraneous, then leave it out. Judges have to go through 13 to 15 projects. They don't have time for extraneous. And sometimes what you can do, sometimes you'll see these primary sources that are, copies of them. Well, I'm not, it's a whole page of text. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be reading. There are ways to highlight that, whether by a different color, or even sometimes I've seen, hi there, come on in. Feel free to sit here, I promise, I don't bite.
I'm just with you.
Okay. Or you can highlight it and by making the words that you really want to highlight stand out, or just doing an excerpt. But that, again, makes more of an impact. Okay. And I think we have one more website to look at. This was from last year. It's called Raising the Iron Curtain. The Revolution, Reactions, and Reforms of Solidarity. Now, Ms. Tom, let me ask folks, was anyone a History Day participant last year? Okay. Can you guess what last year's topic was? Yes, ma'am. Yep, that was 2 years ago. Based on this website, can anyone guess what maybe last year's topic was?
The revolution, reactions, and revolution.
That's right, it was Revolution, Reactions, Reform, and History. And, or was that 2 years ago? I always get the mixed up. Was it 2 years ago?
2 years
And
ago.
last year was Turning Points.
Right.
You'll find that after a while, we start forgetting the theme. But so 2 years ago, this was the topic, or the theme, I should say. Hi there, come on in. Plenty of spaces right here. So that, that was the theme for last year. And come on in, we're just talking about websites. We're gonna get to exhibits in just a couple minutes. These seats are all free, so feel free to sit here. So this is kind of, so they were very clear about their title. What do you think about this homepage for a website? Any thoughts? Is it clear to read?
If you wouldn't have read what that sign said underneath, I don't know that I would have been able to figure it out.
Well, you know what, and one of the challenges with websites is I can only take part of it, so I don't remember if it had it written
Okay.
out. So, but that's a good point. If that was all there was, could you really read it? Not really. Did you ever read that? No. Okay. Any other thoughts? What do you think about this as the front page? What about the design? AJ, yes.
It's like a mix of the first two. It has, a good amount of prettiness, but it still gets straight and right to the point. It looks easy to read because of the red and the white against the whole thing, and it fits in well with the theme.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. I like that it's a fairly limited color palette. You've got 3 colors, black, white, and red. I like that. You get a sense by the pictures of what they're going to be talking about. And so I think that works really well. Let's go to the next one, Bruce. So this is one of the pages that they had. And what I like about this is it's very easy to understand, because under each of your pages you can have subtitles. So here they're talking about how was solidarity a revolution, and they are very clear about it. I like that organization, and that's probably because they created their text first. They didn't just start writing, but they thought about, okay, I've got 1,200 words. What do I need to include? What should I include? And so it made it very clear. I like that a lot. Okay? How about this one? Hi, come on in. There are seats up up front. We've got handouts here. Glad to have you. Hopefully no one ran into too much ice or snow.